I now know what I'm most proud of.
And it is?
It went from... When the boat went from being a blank canvas in the sense that it was finished, everything was done, and then we added our touches. We added the photographs, we added the books, and then it transformed it. Like even the soft furnishings is included in that. When it went from being a finished shell, but actually being a comfortable, nice space, I think that's when the whole thing just changed. And that happened kind of slightly just after the sea trial. We added so many things in those few days. We're talking about hooks and little niche things, the photographs in the back of the crew and family and friends. And I think those things completely altered the perspective of the boat. That's
what Alex was saying. It's like, there's where you get the soul.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Good answer. On the Wind is presented by Pelagic Autopilots, a group of dedicated sailors and engineers developing autopilot solutions for the Blue Water Cruiser, Solo Sailor, and Racer. Pelagic systems have been tested in races and voyages around the globe. In fact, both boats at 59 North use Pelagic Autopilots, and we worked with Pelagic to build a custom unit for Falcon last year to suit her 30-ton displacement. Falcon's Pelagic Autopilot served us well for over 16,000 miles during her first offshore season and was one of the first new systems on board that didn't require significant tweaking after our initial sea trial. Pelagic's testing grounds are the Pacific coastal races, and their philosophy is to provide simple, self-contained products requiring no connection to proprietary data networks, one of the biggest advantages to us and the robust, redundant systems that we like to have on board Eastbjorn and Falcon. The Pelagic Autopilot uses the latest sensor and computer technologies to hold a course through the most difficult conditions. Pelagic Autopilots, built by offshore sailors for offshore sailors. Check out pelagicautopilot.com to learn more and spec your own system. Mia, sound check time?
Sound check.
Can you tell me your name and what you had for breakfast this morning?
So I am Mia, and I had coffee for breakfast.
You said a comment this morning about how you're sorry for people that don't drink milk in their coffee.
Yes. Milk in coffee is the best.
You're not a black coffee drinker?
No, not at all. The only time I can drink black coffee if it's like in a thermos and you're out like in the snow and you really want to have coffee and you forgot to pack milk.
Speaking of the snow, the episode that is going to play today is the debrief that you, me, and Alex recorded on board Falcon in Portugal in shorts and a t-shirt. Can you please describe the setting outside the mission control container office window today on November 28th?
Yeah, so we are sitting in mission control in Sweden where we live, and it's just outside of Stockholm, and it is currently maybe a decimeter of snow on the ground, and it's the last 2 days were absolutely gorgeous. It was snow on the ground, light fluffy snow, couple minus. Today is a little bit different. It's wind is piping and it's overcast, but it's still just beautiful.
It's like
if it's winter, it might as well be snow.
It's like a blizzard outside today. I mean, I took Axel to school this morning and the driveway's all drifted over and it's still only November and it is like proper winter. Now, most people would complain about this. You and I love this.
I love this. I mean, if it's winter, like I said, it might as well be snow and beautiful. And it really helps with the darkness. If it's white outside, everything gets brighter.
I bought, yesterday, I ordered a pair of Icebug running shoes. They have actual metal spikes in them because they're a Swedish company. And if you want to run in the winter in Sweden, you have to have spikes in your shoes or you're going to die. And I've been running twice since I'm home from Portugal and it's very slippery. So I can't believe I've lived here for on and off for 15 years and I've only now just bought Icebug sneakers, but I'm looking forward to that because I love being outside in the limited daylight we have here in winter.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I think it's kind of interesting how, I think everyone the last couple of days been flooded with black emails and cyber emails and black emails, and a lot of the Swedish companies that we respect decided not to do anything on Black Friday, and actually a couple places have they leather up your boots for free, or they encouraging you to take care of your gear rather than buying new stuff, specifically on those days. And I think you and me also a very long time ago decided that that's something we do not want to participate in.
That said, one of those companies, Gransfors make axes, and they're amazing. I have two of them that both have been given to me as presents from you, I think. And they're one of the companies that didn't participate in Black Friday, but they have an awesome. If you're looking for a Christmas present, I know you can get them in the U.S. But it's like an axe that they have a whole different variety of like wood splitting axes, or I have a little one in my office to make kindling for the fireplace, and it'll last you like generations. And they're one of those companies that like supports keeping it good. So if you're looking for a Christmas present idea and you live in a wintry place that has a wood stove, I recommend one of the Gränsfors axes. If
you don't already have one, because if you have one, you should take care of what you have.
Fair enough. Okay, today's episode. This is the first episode of the new season of the podcast. We had a short break where we basically sat down with Alex and Adam on the boat and recapped the whole crazy 2023 season on Falcon. What is the thing that will stay in your mind that you'll remember as like, okay, the first season of Falcon was defined by this?
Oh, man. What comes to my mind is my transatlantic, but that has nothing to do with the Falcon season. But that was just a good memory from the trip.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the thing that first came to mind was stress. But more specifically, I think it's ultimately going to end up, just like a passage where you forget about being seasick. I'm going to forget about how stressful this year was and remember the Greenland trip. That Greenland trip was like once in a lifetime. And that's that over time, that's what I'm going to remember about Falcon's first season, that I took it to Greenland.
Yeah, and I think we touched on this in the podcast, but what also, like, if I think about it a little bit deeper, the word proud, I think, is what stands out to me. I'm really proud of how she looks. I'm proud of having people coming on board and showing her and seeing like the joy that sparks in people's eyes. So I'm really proud of it. Proud of what we accomplished and proud of what we have.
That's a really great way to put it. I'll leave you with that. Enjoy today's episode, and until next time,
hold fast.
You're listening to On the Wind, my podcast about offshore sailing. I'm your host, Andy Schell. Last week, Mia, Bosun Adam Browne, and chief mate Alex Laline sat down in the saloon of Falcon to reflect on what's been a busy, stressful, and ultimately successful first season on our newly refit Farr 65. We've truly come a long way since 1 year ago this time, when we were scrambling to get the boat out of the shed, sea trialed, and out of the UK. Since then, Falcon has sailed over 16,000 nautical miles with over 120 different crew members. The four of us reflected on this past year and what stood out most to each of us and how we feel about the future. Nice. All right. Mia wanted me to make an outline for this. I have not made an outline for this. The point of this podcast today, I'm going to take my headphones off, actually. It's the end of the season, guys. How do you feel, Mia?
It's really cool. I think I had a hard time visualizing the end of the season when we were in Gosport. But throughout the season, it gave confidence that there would be an end of the season. And it feels really good. I mean, we had such a good end to the season. The boat is great. The crew was great. And yeah, I'm very happy.
So this is going to be a fun way to frame this. We use in our debriefs, after each passage, we rank the passage on a score of 0 to 100. And then we have a degree of difficulty on a score of 0 to 10. And then we have a how high was your stress level before the passage, 0 to 10. So let's compare our stress levels from January, when the boat, like say post-sea trial before the first trip. What was our stress level then versus what it is now? What was your stress level, Mia, in January?
I don't think there was a scale in January. I think the scale was like blown far and beyond.
How about you guys, Adam and Alex?
Yeah, I agree. I think we were so far away from actually being like that level of stress was so far away that can't even compare it to anything else.
Were you stressed, Alex? I mean, you're more involved now than you were back then. But how was your feeling at the beginning of the season?
Well, I remember very well the first couple of trips on Falcon, and they were definitely on the high level stress than this compared to this last one that was a lot more calm. So
it's pretty cool. I mean, you and me did the first trip of the year and the last trip of the year, and which was not on purpose, but we kind of decided the other day, like, this is really good. We commissioned the boat at the beginning of the season. Now we're decommissioning it, and you and Mia are doing the first trip of next year. So you guys are going to put the boat away now and basically put it back together again. The four of us are all going to be back here in January for the start of the next season. what specific, like if we can put our finger on it, what was specifically the most stressful thing for you guys back in January, almost a year ago now, as we were getting this boat in the water? I think I know what it was for me, but by the way, I also agree with you. The stress level was off the charts, off the scale, like most stressful time of my life, I think, at the beginning of this season. What was it, if you could put your finger on it, Mia?
To me, it was the unknown, not knowing if, like, I knew the boat would be ready, but not knowing, like...
Did you know the boat would be ready?
No, but the boat would be ready enough that we could sail it, but, like, the unknown of, like, being close to the deadline of sailing versus, like, having a lot of time to test things. I think that was, like, yeah, the unknown of not knowing how ready it would be and not knowing, like, what the gremlins would be. And I think that's in general, I'm getting pretty stressed when I don't have control. You don't have the plan, like you're like, to compare that to when you go out for a walk or a run. If you don't know your way around a new place, you get stressed. Yeah. How about you, Adam? What was it specifically for you? I mean, you probably, the stakes were maybe the highest for you because it was your responsibility to keep this boat moving throughout the season as the bosun. So maybe it's good to recap. What was Adam's role? Well, I'm going to do that we'll have done that in the intro. Okay. I'll introduce everybody. So by now you'll have known that. I think there was kind of like a few different things. Partly, I mean, right at the end there, I was just hopeful that it was going to float because it didn't straight away. It literally didn't float. How many times did it take us to launch the boat? 3 times. 3 times we went in. 2 times we had problems. But so therefore there was kind of like, at some point it has to float. At some point it has to be able to leave. But then I think I also was quite attached by that point, and maybe I wasn't ready for it to go. Maybe it wasn't ready enough for me to let it go, but it had to, and therefore there was kind of an element of like, no, I need to do this as well. I want to do this. This needs to be done. I haven't kind of like got my head wrapped around these different elements, and actually letting the boat go was like the hardest bit. Interesting. How did it feel then when we sailed off to Ireland for you? I mean, I think I bawled. I think I got in the car and just I was like whoomph like that. Yeah, I was just like, I kind of was just so overwhelmed with kind of what the whole process and that whole time period. So yeah, I was just kind of. Well, you were to provide a little background. You were by far the most stuck into the project because you started basically full time at Gosport since like June or July. May, I think it was actually. Even May, yeah. Wow. And you know, we were all sort of managing this from a distance, but you were like there on the ground. Looking back at my photos from last year, I mean, it's quite ridiculous what this boat looked like on what day? What's the date today? November 18th, 19th. Yeah. Like my photos from last year do not look like what it does now. Like that's a good comparison. You know, it's funny. I forget who it was, but maybe it was Mano. We were telling the story of the refit and how it went over time and everything. And I was like, yeah, and it went 4 months over deadline. He's like, that's actually like pretty good. He's like, the fact that it didn't go longer than that is pretty good. And like, you know, we were reflecting at the end of this last trip that we broke every single rule in the book, right? Okay, so like brand new boat, effectively, sailing to a schedule, leaving the English Channel in freaking February, crossing Biscay in March, no time between passages, the schedule thing, and yet here we are in Portugal. The boat is in better shape than it was, like way better shape than it was when we actually left England in January. We sailed over 16,000 miles, 15 passages, I think. Do you know how many crew that we accommodated this year on Falcon? You can do the math. I mean, 8. 15 times 8? Yeah. What is that? 80, 40, 120 people. Yeah. And like we did it, guys. Like, but I think also, I mean, we did leave, but we also did have a safety net set up. I mean, we had Adam working full time, ready to catch if anything would happen, and we had people who had been involved with the company before, so this wasn't completely just setting off. But yeah, I mean, we had like there was no room for error. Basically, like we couldn't afford a delay longer than 3 days. There was the only break we had in the season was in Annapolis, which ironically you weren't able to come in for. Yeah, no, we had a big dog surgeries. Las Palmas. Yeah. I had a time in Las Palmas, but yeah, Annapolis was going to be the big one, and yeah, two dog knee surgeries later. Yeah, I wasn't able to come. Back to the stress. What were you most stressed about before the season started? What was I? I think just getting everything off on time. Like actually getting the hell out of Gosport
when we needed to on time. It was just like I work really well at a deadline. Like all my magazine articles and stuff I write, it always happens the night before it's due. So I'm good at that, but it's not like it takes its toll, right? So like I think I was most stressed about that. And I'm even just thinking like, you know, laying in the aft cabin today, I remember like lacing up these pipe bunk fittings like the day before crew are coming and all this like stuff. I mean, the stuff that came together at the absolute last second. It's just like, man. And this is the first time we've had a chance to actually like stop and think about this.
Well, I said yesterday, didn't I, about the one of my first stories was when Alex was on board and he was kind of like the crew had just arrived and I was in the lazarette waiting to sort of like grind something and just sat there quietly waiting for everybody to like go for dinner so that I could carry on and finish a job.
And we'll finish the story. He was asking where something was.
That's right. So Alex was like, I wonder where this is. And I would just like sit in the back and I could hear him. So I would just like text him and he'd be like, oh my God, Adam's just told me where it is. That's amazing.
Voice from heaven.
Yes.
Alex, you've done a whole bunch of sailing on a bunch of different boats prior to you joining 59 North. So like, how has this compared to other experiences you've had? Because I mean, I think at some point everybody goes through this, like even if you're cruising, goes through this like deadline craziness. I mean, the Ark actually, as we speak, the Ark is getting ready to leave Las Palmas and those guys are all in this same mindset right now. So how is this compared to stuff you've had in the past?
Well, I think in the sailing industry it's always the same, isn't it? Like lastminute.com. It's always kind of the joke that everyone does, but it's true. And I don't think you can ever have a boat as ready as you want it to leave. It's just physically impossible, I think. But from your, like, working for you guys, the difference was, like, the people working in the project, like how everyone got involved and everything and how everybody wanted to help you, which doesn't necessarily happen in other companies I work for. So that was a really refreshing and super cool to see. Like when we did the sea trial, seeing how everyone of the company got involved in all of it, that was amazing. I mean, one of the best weeks in my life.
I mean, what other boat captain / bosun cries when the boat leaves harbor?
Yes, I don't think I've ever seen that, that's for sure.
Excuse me, Adam. There may be another time where you were maybe drawn to tears. I'm picturing the sea trial. Well, we tell this story a lot. You want to repeat it here about when we discovered that the lee cloths on the lower bunks might not be the best solution and we needed to swap to lee boards. You were the test case for that.
Yeah, sadly the lee cloth was just that little bit too short, wasn't it? And I heard tacking, and I was so wrapped up in my sleeping bag at the time with Alex above me in the pipe bunk that I just slid straight off, landed on my face. Alex,
because your arms are like stuck inside your sleeping bag.
Yeah, went straight on my face. Alex kind of was concerned at first, I think, and then he just could not hold in the laughter. But I mean, I just stayed there. It was
That's my favorite.
I just pulled my pillow down, and that was like pretty much like, well, I'm here now. That's it.
And Mia, you know, we do a very good job, as we should, on our trips of kind of like keeping it together when we're leading people, customers. But when we're all together sailing, it like that filter goes out the window. You were pretty seasick on that first trip.
I got to test the buckets. I sea trialed the buckets pretty heavily.
Sea trialed the buckets.
Yep. But I think that was another stress for us because we were living in Gosport with Axel, and he was getting a cough a couple like days before your dad and his wife came over to take care of Axel. And as the night before we were leaving, Axel had a cough, and from the cough puked in my lap. The night before the sea trial, I was like, God damn it, I'm not going to miss the sea trial. So I went on the boat. So I think I had some kind of bug inside me that amplified the seasickness. But yeah, it was not pretty. I really enjoyed that bucket. And yeah.
I think my favorite story from the sea trial is when the extra hole in the boat was discovered in one of the bottom lockers, but somebody had awkwardly positioned a bucket right next to it. So yes, the spray of water, the like little pea stream of water was coming straight into the bucket, and it looked very odd. And I remember Andy being like, and I was led on the floor at this time, in my sleeping bag, and I remember him saying like, "There's a hole in the hole in the boat," and I was like, "What is it?" And he's like, "It's a screw hole," and I was like, "Just put a bigger screw in it."
And that's what we did. We put some silicone and a big screw, and off we went.
So to give the story behind that, when they were putting in the slats on the side, they put must have put an apprentice to do that job, because it's a pretty simple job. But the person who put them in did not know the length of his drill bit and drilled straight through the hole to put the slats in, and that's why we kept discovering holes throughout the sea trial.
That's partly why the boat was launched 3 times at the beginning.
I mean, it isn't really funny, but it's also like really stupid. It's like of all the problems you gotta have, like, come on, guys.
I actually think I know the moment that I was by far the most stressed, and it was when we first launched the boat. Adam's like down in the aft cabin, popping his head up and down. Is there leaks? Is there not leaks? Meanwhile, we're trying to put the mast in, and the freaking crane broke, and the mast is now inside the boat, like through the deck partners, but not on the step yet, hanging in the crane. I hate that in any circumstances. Like, I really hate when a boat gets hauled out, and like when the mast is in the crane, it's like so out of its element. And I'm like standing there, and I could barely watch. I'm like pacing around, and now the mast, like everything just kind of stopped, and the crane would only go down, not up. And they're trying to get the spar tight through the mast partners, and it's still like a meter off the step. And I'm just like, I had to leave. I walked in the workshop. I was like, Adam, come get me when this is over. Do you remember? You were there for that. Do you remember what you were feeling? That was the peak of my stress. I was like, I cannot believe the fucking crane broke as we're putting the mast in the boat.
Well, but then we also...
And it was a tide issue.
It was a tide issue. So the crane could only go down, and we obviously wouldn't be able to kind of adjust it. But then we were also running out of water. So therefore we then couldn't get lifted out again because the crane couldn't move. So if we put the mast in, we then had to be towed somewhere else on a like falling tide. So
that's right. But also, but at the moment the tide was coming up, and my fear was if they don't fix this crane, the tide's going to come up, the mast is going to hit the step and then go slack because they can't hoist it up again.
But this was the same day, because we'd had the first time in, we'd had the issues with the through holes and stuff leaking, and we'd found some of the little tiny holes. Yeah. And then this was the time where I think somebody was on deck, and you were on shore, and you were kind of looking at us and going, is everything okay? And they were like, yeah, I think everything's fine. And it's like, why is Adam bailing water out of the back lazarette?
That's right.
And then that's when I think you probably were like, I'm leaving.
I couldn't take it. That was so stressful. What do you guys have? I mean, we can just like, let's just tell some stories for the year. The cool thing about this, I'm almost thinking this is like glums and glows in the big picture of the whole season. And because we've all sailed on different passages, and we've all had different stories from at sea and stuff. I mean, this boat's done 16,000 miles. That's halfway around the world in like 9 months. Alex, I'll start with you. What like just randomly comes to mind from a trip that you've done?
The one that really comes to mind was on the second trip of FALKEN. So the one that you and I were sailing together going to Ireland, and we spent the night at anchor in the Solent. And I remember that night that we both sat at the Avnav station being like, oh my God, this is actually happening. And we were both like shaking. Like we didn't even know if it was the nerves, the adrenaline, or just like pure anxiety. We just couldn't point it. But yeah, that for me was pretty cool. And when we finally left, I was like, okay, this is it now. It's happening.
It was, I mean, when we were like jibing out the Solent and we came around the Needles, that was when I finally like relaxed.
Yeah, and then proceeded to do 19.9 knots the first night.
Which I think is still stands as the single, like, instant speed record.
Yeah.
You were on deck, I was laying down here, and I hear you guys hooting and hollering, and 19.9, and it's like a star. I mean, we, like, talk about, like, karma, like the sailing gods for us that first trip. I mean, the sea trial probably not so much, but we needed that. But that first trip, I mean, sailing out of the English Channel over to Ireland, and we had a northeast wind, which like perfect. Never happens. So we had to reach all the way across the Irish Sea.
It was amazing. Yeah,
and you got to see the Fastnet rock for the first time.
I did, first time. It was amazing. I mean, your schedule. Were you on your bunk thinking, like, rescheduling the whole year? Like, oh my God, okay, 19.9 knots.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be so short.
The thing I remember from that trip later is we got to Ireland ahead of time, and we anchored down by Crookhaven.
Yeah,
and we had problems with the grinding pedestal, like ever since we tried to reassemble it. And just, again, like karmic luck, we had a crew member, Angus, who was a helicopter mechanic.
Yeah.
And he's like, This seems to me like the inside of this, it's a belt drive in the grinder that transfers the power from the handles down to the gearboxes. He's like, I'm pretty sure this is exactly how the helicopters work, and I know what needs to happen here. And he discovered that, like, it's hard to explain on audio, but basically the way the top cog in the belt had to be aligned properly and then had an asymmetric circle inside, so that depending on how you twisted it and where the bolt holes lined up, you could tension the belt. And lo and behold, that's what happened, and it's been working perfectly ever since.
You were so happy that day. You were so happy.
What are the chances that you have a freaking helicopter mechanic on board on the first trip who's like, I know how that works?
I mean, I was not on the trip, but I got like a 5-page email from Andy describing all this and like in all excitement, like how cool that was. That even I remember it.
It was so cool, and like that, I like that stupid stuff like that. I mean, we basically, Adam, you and I kind of agreed that this whole year was going to be a sea trial. And I don't think I actually not even fully relaxed until right now, but like I started to relax after the break in Annapolis. That's when I was like, okay, I feel like we're sort of over the hump. But even then we had water and diesel in the builds that you flew out to Iceland to fix. But what do you think, how did it evolve from your perspective over the season, kind of like chasing gremlins versus making improvements? Have we gotten over the gremlin chasing bit yet? Would you say this year's sea trial is over, or we still have more to find?
Ask me in a couple of weeks. I think we are still chasing a few small things, which actually will probably make big differences if we can just solve them. But in theory, majority of stuff we're now doing is improvements, and going forward, those things will be they'll all be improvements. So I think it's been a huge learning curve and a huge kind of like even for doing those amount of miles and what we break and what we use continuously over that period.
So give us a couple examples.
I can't think of one. Oh, I think just general wear and tear is actually quite high, and it's amazing how I wouldn't say certain skippers and mates break more things than others, but but there is definitely a lot of it comes down to the passage itself and where that is and sort of expectations and crew on board. So I think it's just a general process, a general learning curve of what we use, how much we use it, and what needs to be replaced. Even we've discussed kind of even some of the interior kind of furnishings, like how long they're going to last. Like, is it a 2-year life and 18-month life? Like
we're trying to figure out that sort of amortization schedule. Basically, how often do we have to varnish the trim in the interior? How often do we have to replace the cushions?
So we can plan ahead, and so therefore, when we go into the Pacific, we already have that already completely outlined and ready to go. So yeah.
I think that's like a bigger challenge too. This podcast is about Falcon because that's what the season was. But Eastbjorn, the stakes are lower on Eastbjorn because she always returns back to the same port. Whereas here, we're trying to figure out, okay, even thinking 18 months ahead, when we're in Tahiti, what spares are going to have to get sent out to the boat there? We were talking yesterday, the one big advantage we have over most cruising sailors is we always have people flying out to the boat from different places. So it's much easier for us to get spares to the boat because we have kind of a built-in network there. So talking about what you're going to keep in your container, what we're going to stage at Lee's house maybe in the U.S. that he can send out and stuff like that. A couple things that come to mind for me is like we've continually had trouble with the battens on the mainsail. We've now broken the second set of battens. That we had the mainsail off in Annapolis, all the first battens broke. We went up a size, they broke again. So now it's like, okay, how do we solve that? We can't have battens breaking every 6 months. I mean, maybe that's just what we have to expect and have to build that into the schedule. But that was kind of a thing. And then a couple of learning curves. We've talked about it a little bit before on the podcast, but like we replaced the instruments in Annapolis. And that's been an ongoing thing. August and I talked about the chart plotter on this year, and you want to put a chart plotter on Falcon because we don't have a solution for like a central hub of data. So that's been like an ongoing learning curve, I guess. What comes to mind for you, Mia?
To me, like it comes into like having such a system, because now we have a rotation of the same people, and as we all have different personalities, we all want to do things different ways. But there needs to be like it's so important to have a structure that everyone can fall back to, even though you put in your own personalities into like the way you organize things and the way you run things. Like I'm just talking about the galley, for example, like it needs to be a structure. This is how it's supposed to be. Of course, people can do their own thing on passage, but it always needs to come back to the same, so it doesn't become like the cascade of like things are just completely different when you return. It's like it needs to be like a if that makes sense. I think that's.
Can you guys actually just occurred to me? Do you guys, maybe Alex would have the most varied experience? Is there like, I feel like we're inventing this because nobody else does this. Like Clipper, when you sail with Clipper or like for the race, you got the same skipper on for the whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. And you know, most private yachts or whatever that have paid crew are like either on a 6-month rotation or you have consistency. So we're trying to do this where like every maximum 6 weeks, sometimes much more often, we have a crew change. And to your point, Mia, like everybody has sort of their own system. So we're having to build this. And usually it's like easier just to copy somebody else's system. I'm not sure that we have that ability to copy right now. Can you guys think of another organization that has a similar flow of staff? Like, what am I missing? Because then you think like, okay, maybe we don't need to reinvent this ourselves.
I'm thinking if there's maybe another industry that have the same kind of.
That's a good point.
Not just like in sailing, but like, is there like a hiking company or is it like another like mountain climbing company? But like, there also is that, like you said, we don't have a home base to return to, which makes it more complicated. But,
I mean, big ships I think are on like this captains and stuff are on like a 6-month or 6-week rotation usually, 6 on, 6 off. I think it's a similar industry.
Yeah, I don't know, but I do think, I mean, so that to me comes to mind that like you really have to have, and we're starting to build that up, and I think with your amazing inventory, Adam, instead of people asking you where things are, you can just go to the inventory, and if people don't know where to put things, they go to the inventory and put it back in the right place, and just to have all these rowdy sailors trying to follow the systems. Like my one funny thing is that you can ask, I was joking with our accountant that you can ask a sailor to go through a storm, but you can't ask them to file the receipts on time. It's like certain things are like, maybe you just have to have a little bit of leeway for people's things that are not that much fun.
So without naming any names, can you just, I mean, at some point, like talking about systems, things tend to accumulate. Can you, Mia, tell us how much butter wound up on the boat when you like cleaned out the fridge for the end of the season?
Yeah, somehow like... it had been a lot of food bought throughout the year, I think, and
stuff just accumulates.
Yeah, so I think having a good reset every time, and yeah, we had a whole box full of butter, and I think we had like 10 kilo of rice on the boat, and I think we used maybe 2 kilo on our trip. So I think we now have rice for like the next 5 months. So like now is a good time in the end of the season to clean all that stuff out and make sure you don't have any like old stuff. And I think that's also like a beauty of having Adam come to the boat, like having Alex, me, that we can all like, it's almost like in a supermarket when you put all the new stuff in the back and the old stuff in the front, so you're always doing a rotation, because you're never going to be able to use up all the food that you buy for the trip, but it needs to be a rotation so it doesn't get old.
Yeah, and it's great, like what you were saying before, that the people who are decommissioning are commissioning it back on in January.
That was by accident, but that's going to be on purpose.
I know.
Forward. Yeah,
but it's great. It worked out perfectly, because then we can start from fresh and learning from this year what went well and what went not so well. And I think it's great that next year we start from zero and
build it into our
plan.
Yeah, and then build it into the manual that how things should be done.
I mean, the hope is that we can now, like Adam and you and I were talking about how basically this year was just like really scrambling to keep up and just like get stuff done as quickly and good as we can. But now that we finally have a little bit of breathing room, we can actually like go a level up and like increase the quality and the systems and really like, okay, we scrambled, we did it, now let's do it better. Totally. And more efficient.
And I think one of the things that we have to do with our systems in place, especially for crew, is sometimes we can overcomplicate things. And I mean, there's plenty of systems out there using barcodes and QRs, and we can have inventoried things which come up sort of digitally, but we don't have the ability to do that necessarily without consistent internet and access. And actually, sometimes overcomplication of systems while people are at sea just make life harder. So it's finding a really fine line between the two, right? A simple system that works well but is also efficient. And
well, I think a good example of that is the maintenance logbook that we introduced like halfway through the season, where you have a pretty detailed maintenance schedule on the computer, but when you're middle of the Atlantic and something happens, you need to just quickly write it down. And what was happening before is people would write it down on scrap pieces of paper and it was impossible to keep track of. So now we have a maintenance logbook, and that is just part of the routine that after each trip, you scan it and send it to you, and then you take what needs to be digitized and digitize it. Some stuff just gets written down. Okay, we fixed this at sea. Noted. Fine. And that's like an example of like, okay, let's not overcomplicate this.
And quite often what that maintenance log gives us are observations. And therefore I can work out, I can go backwards and go, okay, what have we seen over time and what's changed? And actually you can then, it's easier to troubleshoot from that point of view.
Well, not just you, but like when we do a staff change, you can just flip through that maintenance logbook and see what's been happening over the last couple trips and what's broken, what's been fixed, or what's been observed, whatever. And you get a bit of a catch up on what you can expect now as a new skipper coming in. Big picture, like, do you guys think we did it? Like, we had this big vision for this boat, we built it, and now we've sailed it. Did we accomplish what we set out to accomplish?
I think so, especially when you see people coming on the boat, like I haven't sailed since Bermuda, but like having people stepping on board on the boat, and just you can see the sparkle in their eye when they see the boat and when they walk around, and then the sparkle on their eyes when like you hoist the sails and like they are behind the helm. So like seeing it from the crew's perspective really, really makes it, I think.
I think the testimonials from throughout the year show that it was what we wanted to achieve was accomplished for sure.
I think it's only the beginning. So
I mean, it's true, but like, would you guys have done anything differently to the way we built the boat?
I don't know, because also, I mean, ideally you have a lot of time to test over the systems and everything, but also the real test comes into use.
Yeah. And
at some point you have to just let go and start using it in order to know what needs to be done. I mean, I think ideally we would have had another couple extra months in Gosport, maybe, to just smooth it a little bit. But if we would have had a couple extra months, maybe we would have ended up in the same situation just a couple months later.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what you were alluding to earlier, Alex, like the old saying that a boat's never ready to leave. And at some point you just have to go. That's 100% true.
And I do think like the best test is to have crew on board. You can't create the system until people start sailing it. So yeah, of course, there's a few things that probably we could have been better in hindsight, having more time. But no, I definitely think it went pretty well.
I like the flexibility we've shown. Like Adam, you rearranged the way you had stored all the parts and tools. Can you just touch on that?
Yeah, I think the opportunity to change things and not be set in your ways is really important. So we tried something, it didn't work, or it wasn't totally efficient, and therefore let's try something else and to keep evolving with it. And I think that goes with, yes, there are things I would have done differently, but we had to do them to be able to then change them. Do
you have an example?
It's probably too many. No, it's probably really small stuff. And actually, I can't even think of an example.
Well, I mean, the tools thing, to be specific. You just went from like toolboxes that are like proper toolboxes, and now we just have clear plastic IKEA boxes. Like, talk about keeping it simple, because you can see through them. You can see what's in them.
Yeah, and actually, because of the shapes of some of the storage that we have, it makes it very awkward to be able to try and fit these larger bits in, or bags, etc., etc. And we've had issues where maybe there's a little bit of extra condensation and bags have got wet, and therefore tools have got wet. And but I think it's been really important to not be worried about being like, well, that's how we started, that's how we thought we should do it. It's like, no, we can change that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think another good example is the top of the engine bed. For you guys who've been on the boat, we have so next to the engine we have the crew bunks, and we left that open intentionally. We could have built it up with a lot of like storage space, and we decided we don't know what we want to do with this yet. Let's just leave it open, and then we turned out to be like the best open space, because when you do working on the boat, that's where you can organize everything. You don't have to have it on the salon table. So and you can do chart work with the crew when they come.
Right now there's 2 brand new toilets sitting on the workbench area that are going to go in amongst myriad other tools and bits and pieces and parts.
Sometimes like just leaving things open. Same thing in the galley. We know that those cabinets are really big, and kind of we want to build some shelves, but like let's use them first before we know what we actually want. We still haven't decided what we want there, and it's a year later. So I do think sometimes just being patient and waiting and try a system, and like, okay, it worked, it didn't work, and just be accepting that you have to spend money on new IKEA boxes to change it, and that's okay.
And I think we talked about this from a point of view of like, it's better to have empty spaces on the boat, and then you can use them at the right periods of time, namely kind of for transatlantics, when you need that extra space, rather than having it filled all the time.
Yeah, same thing, like under the crew bunks in the forward forepeak, they're empty. And for a normal passage that is only like a week or two, all the food stores we have is enough. But for a longer transatlantic, we're going to be gone for like 3-4 weeks. Those are great to be able to just put food in, and extra toilet paper, extra paper towels and stuff. So I think having those, if they would have been crammed with other stuff, then where would you put this extra?
What are you guys most proud of from the season? It can be a personal thing that you experienced or overall big picture. Silence, guys.
Yeah.
Dead air. I'll have to fill it. Alex, you want to say something?
I'll go from to the beginning, and it's because I wasn't that involved when Falcon was being built, basically. But I do remember meeting Adam in the yard. I think where was it? August or September? Something like that. Yeah. Something like that. And I remember seeing the boat, and Adam saying the first splash date was like November or something like that. And I was like,
it was supposed to be August.
Yeah.
It was.
Andy told me.
And I can prove it. It's in the contract.
And I remember seeing the boat, and I was like, there is just no way on earth this is gonna happen.
The best part of the yard in July said that, yep, August is a date. And I was like, there's no chance. Why is everyone lying? They're like, no, August is a date.
So the first time my dad saw it was when we were sailing Ice Bear down to Portugal when the sail fell through. That was in September. Mm-hmm. And my dad's like, and you guys are going to take paying people on this in January? Like, what the hell? Like, no chance. And I'm there all confident. I mean, the boat was still like stripped out, grinding fiberglass at that point.
Yeah, there was nothing on it.
So wait, what are you most proud of then? You didn't get to that part.
So yeah, for me it was so obviously I got more involved when after the splash, we did the sea trials, and I did the first 2 trips of the year. And for me, somehow I felt part of it, even if I wasn't that part of the construction side. But to see how far Falcon was just a few months before that, I was like, I felt like proud. It wasn't personal, but more about like for the people that I work for. I was like, they did it. They just did it. So which was, yeah, that was incredible.
What were you gonna say, Mia?
I'm gonna think like how sharp she looks. Like the first impression when I haven't been on her for a while. I mean, I haven't seen her since June in Annapolis, and just walking down the up and seeing her from above, coming down the dock is like, man, she's cool. Like this, like she looks sharp. Like with a gray non-skid. Like everything looks like it's tidy, it's nice. Like, and I think that's. To me, I'm really proud of that. I
mean, one of the crews said the other day, like we're parked, as you and I joke, on Lyxbryggan, like the big boat dock here in Lagos, and like we're parked between like a brand new Contest 55, a Halbergrassi 64, and like you don't even notice those other boats when you're walking down the dock because Falcon stands out so boldly and, like you say, sharp. One of the crew said that the other day, and it's like, yeah, these are like iconic boats. We're surrounded, and you don't even see them.
And I'm also really proud of how we transformed her from being like. First like a race around the world to like a pretty beat up like sail training boat that like was just meant to take
the green boat, right, Adam?
The green boat. But like the people were not. This boat, when we bought her, like she was taking people sailing, but it was not really like was nothing to be proud of the way she looked. And now to transform like the interior and like make her look like a really cool cruising boat on the inside, like but still have that like simplicity of like the fast boat element. I think like the feel of her I'm really proud of. Because it was hard to visualize when we were sitting there talking in our house in Sweden with Bob Perry about the interior and not just seeing the drawings but then actually seeing what it turned out to be.
And that's what I meant. It's like you guys have given the soul back to the boat, and that's you should be super proud of that because that you can see that from the outside and it's super cool.
I was going to say that I think like you it's each time that I'm away from the boat and come back, it's the fact that when I walked through Las Palmas and you could see her from a distance, or even landing in Reykjavik and sort of like just walking through and you're like, where are the boats? And then you're like, there she is. It's just obvious. She's just so easy to spot, and I think that always gives you kind of like quite a nice warm feeling. You're like, yeah, she looks good. Yeah, the decisions, although were made when the boat was empty and you kind of like didn't really know exactly how it was going to look, like those things have really come together.
So I'm gonna push you though. What are you most proud of personally in your involvement of the whole project?
don't know.
What about you, Andy? What are you most proud of?
A couple things I'm most proud of. Just like the sailing trips. Like, I mean, I've talked about this before, but the fact that we had this Greenland passage on the calendar in the first year of the boat, which before going to Svalbard would have been like impossible. Like, are you crazy? You're gonna go to Greenland and Iceland on a brand new boat? And I didn't even really think about it because it was so busy this spring and the summer, and then the kicker for me was when you couldn't make it to Annapolis and I was supposed to have 2 weeks vacation, and now I'm having to do maintenance on the boat. You've been forgiven, by the way, but like I was like, I was not mentally prepared to go to Greenland. And then when we did it, and we did it so successfully, I think I'm most proud of like that passage, because that was such a huge thing, and it was such a big deal on its own, and yet it was only one trip out of 15 that we did this whole year. So like that trip in context of the rest, I was most proud of. And then the other thing I think I don't know if this is like something to be proud of or whatever, but I guess I'm really proud of like the people that has been attracted to this. Like, all you guys came to us. Like, we've never had to hire staff. Everybody's just been like, hey, I think it's cool what you're doing. Can I work for you? And then you look at their resumes and it's just like, wait, like Chris is, as we speak, in Antarctica with Skip Novak, and like he wants to work for me. It's like, wait a minute, this is what's going on here? And all you guys are in that same category, and it's so cool. And like the dedication that you guys have to do this, none of us are paid very much. Adam, you freaking drove your van to Portugal from Scotland,
1,900 miles,
sleeping in the back of the van as you go, and next to the new toilets
and the track, so it was tight.
And it's just like, I think I'm most proud of like and it applies to the customers as well. Like, people just somehow we've created this thing that everybody wants to be a part of, and I think that's ultimately what I'm most proud about.
Yeah, and I'm also in the big picture proud of like you said, the network we built, from when it comes from like people working with us, people just stopping by to say hi, like people that like on the dock here in Portugal, a couple that we met when we were here like in 2019, they stopped by and they're like, oh yeah, we knew you guys were coming in, so I wanted to stop by and say hi. And I think that's so cool.
Well, Rob, the skipper from Tindra, which became Ice Bear, is going to come by in like 10 minutes to come see the boat, because he's still here.
We were in Annapolis and we invited people who have helped us along the way, and it's people that we've known for like 15, 20 years in the sailing industry. And they all like still good friends with us. And I think the network and the like, we call it the 59 North family. And I think
cult.
Yeah, the cult.
Future commune.
Yeah, but I'm really proud of like the happy family that we created around this. Like,
you know, this is the end. I added this up. This was our 9th season.
Wow.
Like the nine years we've been doing these types of trips on different boats.
So I'm really proud of the network. That continue to support us and continue to enjoy what we're doing, that we can share it with.
So I'll ask a future-facing question. What are you guys most excited for? We'll wrap this up with this one. What are you guys most excited for as it relates to Falcon and next year's schedule?
Ooh, I'm looking forward to, I think for me is just the getting more involved in the bigger picture with you guys, and obviously being able with Falken to go travel to different destinations with either Adam or sailing the boat, and being able to keep that standard that we want on the boat. I'm super, super excited for that, and have always the boat on top notch where we want her to be. So yeah, super looking forward to that. And obviously the Pacific.
Yeah, we got to get through next year first. Slow down.
That's why I was like, let's make sure she's top notch first.
We haven't draw straws yet for who's going to get to do what passages in the Pacific. There's going to be some competition there. What about you, Mia?
I'm really looking forward to that we have now the mental capacity to add something like the Pacific to the calendar. That we're over the refit. We continue to update the boat to be the best boat we have, and the same with Isbjörn. And I'm also really excited that we have the mental space in order to like even think about something like that. We're not just kind of keeping our head over the water. We have time and space to look ahead, and to like planning the 25 Isbjörn calendar. And that's what I'm really excited, that we can actually enjoy the future and not just like try to put out fires all the time.
Yeah, I agree with that. How about you, Adam?
I think I'm, like you said it previously, I think I'm really looking forward to coming on board and rather having to fight the gremlins and fix things which which are kind of not necessarily complicated, but they're things that we originally did. To get on board and actually be like, okay, I'm going to do something which is now going to improve the user experience or like staff experience, whichever it may be, but do those things which are, they say, improvements rather than just like maintaining or kind of troubleshooting.
I mean, a fun example of that is you came out to Iceland because we had this diesel leak in the bilge with a water leak, which was like just messy. Like we'd have to pump the bilges out of diesel water 2-3 times a day. And you come to Iceland and I'm like, okay, hey, have you found the leak? And how many leaks did you find?
I think it was like 16 or 17, wasn't it? Like little individual leaks. I was like, good news, I found them. Bad news, there's 17.
But you fixed them, and now the bilges, I mean, you guys cleaned out the bilges the other day with crew, and there was bone dry and no diesel leaks.
Dry and clean.
Yeah. I think a couple of specific things I'm most looking forward to. I'm really looking forward to you and Mia, coming back here right at around New Year's before the next trip with Axel. Because Axel, like, we get him on the phone on FaceTime, and all he wants to do is, like, see the boat. It's like, I want to see the boat. Show me around the boat.
Yeah, we've been gone for 10 days, and all he wants to do is look at the boat, not us.
Yeah. So that's, like, I'm excited for that we have now, like you said, the mental space to, like, okay, we can bring him here because it's calm enough that we're not going to be ripping our hair out trying to do stuff. And then, specifically, I'm doing this transatlantic, only my second Tradewind transatlantic, but with Jen from the Woodwind. So it's kind of like full circle. I get to, like, show her the business that we've built. You know, we sail on the Woodwind every year boat show. I'm still friends with them. And that's where I started in 2006. And now she's never been on a big ocean passage like this. So to show her what we've built and how we do it, I'm like really excited for that. Like that's going to be a fun thing for me specifically. What do you guys, I mean, I don't know how to actually wrap this up, but like, what are any closing thoughts, I guess? Just a random question. What do we not talk about? I mean, I'm so excited to be here with you. And also like, the fact that we're here face to face is like so cool.
I was going to say that it's what I like so much about this too is that you and me started this together. I only sailed with you. Now I get to sail with Alex. I sailed with Chris this year. I've sailed with Nikki next summer. I think having the team, it's like almost getting giggly every time I get to go sailing because I also get to go and hang with my friends that I only get to see a different part of the year. So having this network, it's really, really fun.
Yeah, on that note, I was talking about this on the blog the other day because sailing is a funny one because you make friends in the industry, but the only time you see your friends is on trips. But then when you're on the trips, you're asleep while your friend is awake.
Yeah.
So it's like, we never really get to hang out together, and it's super awesome. And like, I mean, last time I was with you, we could not stop giggling on the boat. Like, we're working hard, I promise, but non-stop giggling.
I agree. I think that's really nice, and I really appreciate when I get to come out, and especially when I come to, if there's a crew change, and therefore like I see you and Chris, or see you Mia or Andy, and kind of then introduce the next lot of crew that are about to arrive. It's always really special. It's always really fun.
Yeah. Well, I'll just end this by saying I'm so thankful to have all you guys as both friends and colleagues and stuff. And it's like you got to pinch yourself that here we are sitting here, and somehow we've created a thing that we can get paid a little bit to just have fun with each other all the time.
No, it's like amazing.
So cool.
I mean, the dream to start with was that we wanted to take friends to sailing, and the crew who sail with us become friends. We get to hang with you guys. So I think that's, if we're going back to the first goal, that's accomplished.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, the weather's better in Portugal than it is in Gosport.
I'll tell you what, it's pretty nice. I mean, it's like perfect weather in the daytime, and then like chilly at night. Put a sweatshirt. We had the heat on last night, which was nice and cozy. So this is back to like, we're just gonna move here, I think.
When we were doing the refit in Gosport, I highly regretted not doing the refit in Portugal because spending 6 weeks in Gosport in January, February would have been much nicer to spend 6 weeks in Portugal.
Definitely. I remember I think it was like September or October, and Andy and Nikki came to see Falcon, and we were sat there, and the question was kind of like, how are you getting on? Sort of like, are you getting time to like exercise and things like that? And I kind of looked at them like, are you kidding me? Like, and then Andy's like, no, I've definitely got to prioritize like exercise. And I was like, right, okay. And then in the middle of January, sort of like at the last push, I'm like, so are you getting time to exercise?
No.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Mia's exercise was walking Axel to daycare 25 minutes each way in the rain.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
It's all good. Yeah, really, really
This is
good.
so much fun. And I mean, we're just getting started, so
Looking forward to the next season.
2024.
I mean, we haven't even, like,
2024.
the next time I'm going to see you after this is at Vindo for Eastbjorn. Like, the whole other side of the project here. You, me, and August are going to be giggling in the boatyard in Sweden.
So much giggling, yeah. And once again, another amazing place, Vindo, yeah. Very cool.
Well, you can always tag along, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Until next time.
Hold fast.
Thanks again to Pelagic Autopilots for sponsoring this episode of the show. To spec your own system and learn more about their independent, robust, and redundant autopilots, go to pelagicautopilots.com. On the Wind is the podcast about sailing, created by 59 Degrees North and hosted by me, Andy Schell, and also by August Sandberg, Emma Garshagen, and occasionally Ben Doer. The show is mixed and produced in Frederick, Maryland by Lee Cumberland. Ads are read by us, the hosts, and occasionally by 59 North's Bosun, Adam Browne, and podcast producer Lee Cumberland. Episode artwork and website show notes are done by Laura Parent in San Francisco. The intro theme music is composed and performed by former podcast guest and musician Cameron Dale, while the outro music you're hearing now is, of course, by our friends, the Storm Weather Shanty Choir. We love hearing from our fans, so send your questions and comments to holdfast@59-north.com, and please do us a favor and review the show on iTunes or wherever else you get your podcasts. Until next time, hold fast.
I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. As I was walking down the street, I met sweet Angeline. She said, come home with me, me lad, and we'll have a cracking time. But when I awoke, it was no joke. I found I was all alone. My silver watch and my money too, and my whole bloody gear was gone. Was gone, was gone. My whole bloody gear was gone. It was when I awoke, it was no joke, for my whole bloody gear was gone. As I was walking down the street, I met Big Rapper Browne. I asked him if he would take me in, and he looked at me with a frown. He said, last time you was paid up with me, you talked up no score. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more. Once more, once more, to go to sea once more. I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more. Sometimes we're catching whales, me lads, but mostly we get none. With a 20-foot oar in every paw from 5 o'clock in the morn. And when daylight's gone and the night's coming on, we rest upon our oars. And oh boys, you wish that you was dead or snug with the girls ashore. Ashore, ashore, or snug with the girls ashore. that you was dead, or snug with the girls ashore. Come all you seafaring lads that listen to me song. When you go a big boating, boys, make sure you do not go wrong. You take my tip when you come off a trip, don't go with any whores, but get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more.